Hello everyone, welcome back to another video where today I brought along Geek Rambles to discuss some of your theories on the upcoming Doctor Who Centenary special and perhaps some reasons why we're a little bit worried about the episode. But before we get into it, if you could do me a teeny tiny little favour and click that subscribe button, I'd be ever so grateful. We just hit 12,200 subscribers, so if we could hit 12,300 by the time I release the next video, that'd be greatly appreciated. Also, go follow me on Twitter if you don't already, as that's how you participate in these videos. If this video gets 500 likes, I'll release part 2 and enjoy the video. So what were your thoughts on the next time trailer for the Doctor Who Centenary specials?
Well, funnily enough, with the whole Legend of the Sea Devils, or when we get into that part, I kind of switched off towards the end, and I'd completely forgotten that I was meant to carry on watching, a bit like Marvel, to be fair. And I heard the start of the trailer, and I was like, oh, okay, same old, same old. Loved that the Daleks have the plungers back, by the way.
That's cool.
Yeah, really cool. And then I didn't even notice Tegan at the start. So when I sort of heard someone talking, that's when I looked, and Sophie Hydra just happened to pop up at that moment.
Yeah.
I had an Easter egg in my hand and I threw it and screamed because I was that excited. I love McCoy and Ace.
Oh, same. They're like my favourite classic Who dynamic team.
100% agree with you. Yeah, so I'm so excited. I love Kate being back. I always do. I'm not like a die-hard fan of Kate.
Kate for me is like, she's fine. I mean, I was hyped to see her. I think it was Village of the Angels. They announced her coming back, and I was like, oh, cool. Kate, I wasn't expecting that.
My thought process, yes, I was like, I'm excited. I've smashed the replay button on YouTube and it comes to that trailer.
Yeah, I have as well. Even I have, you know. Like
I'm going to see something new all the time. Yeah. But my main sort of concern, and it will lead to, I think, a lot of people feeling this way, is that there's far too much going on.
Yeah.
There's far too much in there. And I have lost every part of giving Chibnall the benefit of the doubt to get as excited about it as I should be.
Yeah, you know what? That's completely fair. I'm in the exact same position, pretty much, like almost identically. Like I've said before, in terms of if it was any other context in which Ace and Tegan were coming back, I think I'd be a lot more hyped than I am. But the hype for me is less hype and more trepidation than hype. And more sort of, I guess, are they actually going to be used? Like that's my big worry at the moment is, are they just going to be like, the way I describe it, like with when Chibnall like does returning characters, it's like their museum exhibits. It's like they sort of stand there, they'll occasionally say one of their catchphrases and then you move on. It's like that is essentially what they are in Chibnall stories. So I'm just really worried that they're going to make Ace and Tegan back, which I really don't want.
No, I get that, but no, you're totally right, and it is like an exhibit. It's like being in Van Saturn's museum again, isn't it? You know, when it just sort of did a little bit of a pan across all the creatures that we've seen in classic, and that's kind of how I feel when it comes to Chibnall and introducing these people back and bringing back people is great and fan service, and it's brilliant fan service, but it is just that we've had our hopes up so much with so many things.
Yeah,
that it's like kind of
I think
predictable how it's going to go.
It comes to a point where it's just like cheap shocks don't work after a while, and I'm not saying they're entirely cheap. Like it was cool, but at the same time, it does feel cheap because it's like they've come out of nowhere. Like there's not really a reason for them to be back, as far as we can tell. It's just, oh my god, remember these guys? They're in it. Yeah, it's a weird scenario. And obviously, as we're going to get into in a moment, there's a lot more stuff that's at least been rumoured heavily to be coming back alongside Ace and Tegan.
Yes.
Frankly, I think a lot of said stuff is true. Maybe not all of it, but I do think, I don't know if you follow Janet Fielding on Twitter, but she's kind of said, like, there's plenty more surprises, which just makes me go, oh God, how much are they going to cram in? But then equally, I'm like, but it's classic Who characters, but so I'm sort of in two minds. Like there's one naughty fan part of my brain going, but you like these characters, and then there's another critical part of my brain going, but wait, are they actually going to do anything? And that's those two sides are kind of just at conflict at the moment.
Yeah, no, I can totally appreciate and agree with that, and you're right. As lovely as it's going to be to see them, it is just, the only way I think it's ever going to work, and there's me going again, trying to give Chibnall some leeway, But the only way it will work is if you make this a 90-minute episode minimum.
Yeah, that is another thing I worry about. Like, it's all one part as well. So I do just worry it's going to be like flux in one episode. And I'm not ready for that.
No, no, which is a massive shame, because you don't want to feel like this, do you? You don't want to feel like you're dreading a massive moment. So
yeah,
it's sad, but I have been keeping up with your Twitter quite closely, actually, and I did see your tweet last night regarding some theories, and I've seen some really interesting ones already.
Yes, well, so I asked on Twitter, basically, since there's a lot of stuff already coming back in the Centenary, so I get the feeling that we're going to get some wild ones. So I said, what are your wildest theories for the Doctor Who Centenary special? There's some that are polar opposite to each other, which I find quite interesting as well, because I think this episode can be interpreted in so many different ways. The first one says, I guess the wildest theory out there is that classic Doctors will be returning. Now, this is an interesting one because I've covered it a couple times, like rumors about classic Doctors returning alongside their companions, and there is more credibility to that than some other things, mainly that around the time they were filming the Centenary, David Bradley, Sylvester, Colin, and one of the others, I think, were all seen at a cafe. They were all seen at a cafe in Cardiff whilst they were filming the Centenary. You add on to that, I think Janet Fielding has said, who will be back? Implying, could that mean Doctor Who, as in other incarnations of the Doctor? I think, for me, this is one of the more likely ones. I would feel kind of it depends on the capacity, but it's kind of I didn't really like it. I don't know whether this is a hot take or not, but I didn't really like it when David Bradley was in Capaldi's last story. I kind of felt like it overshadowed him a little bit, and I kind of feel we've already got classic characters returning as is. I feel like you add classic Doctors onto that equation, it's going to just not be 13 story anymore. And I don't even like this incarnation particularly, but I at least think the last episode of a Doctor should be about them. Do you know what I mean? It's I would feel weird towards the idea, but it depends.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. As much as I would love it, I mean, it would make a massive amount of sense for Davison and McCoy to return, for their companions respectively. And I would be so behind that because I love them both. But yeah, you're right. I mean, this is Jodie's last episode, and without sounding awful, but it's true in my opinion, other actors that come in tend to steamroll over her in terms of writing and performance. And I don't mean that she is a bad actress, but I mean just the parts that have been written for other people. Jo Martin, for example, you go in, she comes in, she swoops it, kind of trips Whittaker's, Doctor over. And I feel sorry.
Oh no, that's all right, you go on.
I feel like if any of the Doctors were going to come into this, be it classical or anyone else for that matter, it would be a massive shame, because I don't feel like she's going to be able to bounce off them. Say Tennant and Smith were very, very close together in the 50th, so that was fine. But I think to bring back a classic that a lot of people adore, especially those two, and to have that over Whittaker, you're right, it's going to overshadow her, and it's not going to be fair. Imagine going out, that's your last episode or last one with you in it entirely, and that's what it's remembered for. I as much as I would love it, I don't think it's a great
it would
idea.
kind of be oh look, all these classic characters came back, and it was Jodie's last one as well. But and it is that weird thing of and you're right, it has happened to Jodie before. I mean, even if you go back to series 11, a common I guess anecdote I heard then was, oh my god, Graham's so fun to watch. Oh yeah, and the rest of them, they're also there. It's that's even happened as far back as then, before we had any big major stuff. So doing that in the final, I don't know, it's a weird one. On the one, because as well, there's obviously in the Centenary, we get that shot of her in the cubicle prison-y looking thing when she's regenerating or not, which we'll talk about in a moment, regenerating in quotes. So what I don't want from this story is it essentially to just be like the Timeless Children again, where she's just sort of sat incapacitated for the majority of the story.
Yeah.
It would just be I don't know, it would just feel weird to have a Doctor inactive almost in their final story. That would feel really odd.
No, it is. When I think back to the Timeless Children, actually, now that you've mentioned it, I mean, I am one of those people, unfortunately, that will give Chibnall the benefit of the doubt and will just keep sort of making excuses for him. However, I do think it kind of worked in the Timeless Children because it was the Master taunting her and, you know, revealing all these things to her. But yeah, it is going to be the same thing. And the problem I've got is that there is going to be a major character, might not be the Doctor, and that would be great, but there will be someone who will have nothing to do. Chibnall has as a writer that I've experienced, throws stuff at the wall, hopes it sticks, and if it doesn't, the person that sticks the least tends to have nothing to do.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Yeah, which was Yaz in Series 11 and Dan in Flux.
Yeah.
And then Whittaker in certain parts. I don't mind a Doctor-like episode, but not not one where she's physically there and she has nothing to do. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think no, I agree with you. I mean, we could talk all the video about the structural integrity of Chibnall's like stories in terms of.
I know. Sorry.
No, that's all right. That's all right. I was going to carry on, but I was like, no. Otherwise, we'll just not get to any other theories. No. So someone said, I don't know if this is wild, but I think that the Master turns good, then turns out to be bad and kills the Doctor. Dan goes to die. Yaz stays on Earth. Graham helps her to make that decision. Yep, not too wild. Can't think of anything unexpected that will happen. So there's a couple of things to dissect there. There's a couple of little things. Starting off with the Master turning good thing. I've seen a lot of people suggest, because obviously in the Centenary teaser, so I don't know why, I didn't know what to call it then. I could have just said teaser, but I felt the need to say Centenary beforehand. We see one shot of the Master clean shaven and sort of looking younger, and one shot of him in his Rasputin sort of vibe look, which has led a lot of people to speculate that this could be, you know, different time periods, which is personally what I subscribe to. But also, obviously, there are also, I think there's a promotional shot of Yaz and the Master stood together, which kind of implies perhaps a faux alliance there. So I definitely think the idea of the Master being more sympathetic in this episode is definitely possible. Perhaps it's a previous or earlier version of the Sasha Master seeing his like latest self, like the same incarnation, but the latest version of them, and being like, I don't want to turn into that. Like, we need to stop this from happening. It could be a situation like that. Yeah, I think it's a good theory, though.
It is a great theory, and it's probably going to be an unpopular opinion, but I kind of hope that isn't the case. Not that I don't think it's a good theory. I don't want to say that, and I don't want to say don't theorize. I never would. But the only reason I don't want that to happen is because I like Sacha Dhawan's Master, and I like how he performs the Master in a dark, sadistic almost way. And especially if Missy hadn't had the same arc, or at least a similar arc, I would be all for it. But when I've had that happen, and we don't even know where Dhawan's Master fits in to the Master of Missy time stream or regeneration or incarnation or whatever, that's the only reason why I wouldn't want to see that happen. However, when it comes to a faux alliance, I think it could be a case where the Master does pretend to be good. I can deal with that.
Yeah.
And gets Yaz on side in some way. I feel like this is going to come up again, so I might wait until it does. But this whole thing with Yaz, there's something there that really sticks and clicks in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, you could say it now because I think we might be sharing the same thought, because I have talked about it before, not on this channel, but on Joe's channel, Confused Adipose channel. I think we're talking about the same thing. I think I know what you're getting at. Could be completely wrong. Could be the Master's a culinary chef. I could be just completely off base. But I think what you were getting at was the whole idea of the Master showing the Master showing Yaz, rather, hey, the Doctor's gonna leave you. Like, it's happened before. Yeah, that's where you had a feeling that was where you were gonna go with it. So we might as well address that now. I really like that idea.
Like, I do. Yeah.
Like, that would make sense to bring classic Who companions in. It would give them a function in the narrative, which is would finally be Chibnall putting characters to use that he brings back. It would make the whole scenes of the Yaz and the Master in Spyfall, when they're sort of giving each other the funny looks, make more sense, because it's kind of like maybe there is a bit of a sort of unspoken dynamic between those two. It would just it fits almost perfectly. I almost feel it's too good for Chibnall, though. Like, and that sounds horrible, but it's like...
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And that's not for me to, completely, crap all over him. It's just, in fact, I even said it in a live stream of mine that there's certain theories that fans come up with where I think, my God, that would work so much better than what's already been done. And I think that one especially, maybe I'm biased because I wanted it myself, that would work so perfectly. And I feel like things could be tied up so much. And if he was to do that, or were to do that, it's already been done, then my opinion on his whole run would change, because at least it means that he has tied things together. And that would make me satisfied.
Yeah,
I think it's agree. The right word.
It's the sort of thing where it's like, this year is kind of past the point of me being like, oh, I love this. I'm never going to get to that point. I don't think. I think it's just... But what it would do is it would at least give a sweeter taste in the mouth to leave it on, rather than not. So the other thing the person said was that Dan goes with Di. I think that's pretty much inevitable after Legend of the Sea Devils with the phone call. I think that's pretty much... I think the only reason that phone call was there was so that Dan had a reason to stay on Earth, to be honest.
Oh, I know.
Like...
I always feel like, oh, do you know what, bless him. Because there's a lot of potential with Dan. And I mean, I'm biased because I'm a huge fan of John Bishop anyway. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing really else development-wise that can be done with Dan, I don't think, at this point anyway. Yeah, he ends up with Di. I'm happy with that. That's great, happy ending and fine.
Yeah. It's just kind of, at this point with Dan's the one where it's like, he is kind of just there. Like, he's fun. He can be fun. He can be funny. For me, it's kind of like with Dan's ending, I really don't care where he ends up. That sounds horrible.
I don't. No, I don't. And like I said before about other things, I don't want to feel like that, but I don't think it's really a bad thing. The thing is,
because of how little time we've had with him as well. Like, he had all the Flux stuff to deal with in, obviously, Flux. The Flux stuff in Flux. And then in the specials, he's been completely just there and has kind of been the supportive best friend for the Tasman arc, which is fine. But there hasn't really been any real focus on him. Like, I feel as though you could swap him out for, like, Graham. Let's say there's an alternate version of Revolution where Graham stays on and Ryan leaves or whatever. And the stories would function identically. Like,
yeah, they would.
For all the impact he makes on the story, like, they would be the same. So it's the same thing I felt, I think, when Revolution of the Darks happened and Ryan and Graham left. It's like, okay, bye then. And then we sort of move on. It's a shame, but I don't really feel like I'm going to feel that much towards either of the companion exits.
The shame about this whole thing is that when Ryan and Graham left and they had that hug moment, I felt completely hollow. And the one thing that I wanted from Jodie's exit, or anyone's exit for that matter, is that I want to feel something. I want to feel, I want to feel gutted. I want to feel like I did when Donna left. And I know that's never going to happen, but I want to feel that way. And I'm just not going to get it. But I've kind of accepted that. Yeah. And I'm okay with it. I just sort of want to be along for the ride now.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. I just want to, I mean, we're going to watch it regardless, aren't we? Let's be honest. And yeah, I just want to enjoy the ride and hope to the Time Lord gods that I'm not going to be in a bad mood afterwards.
Yeah.
That's the best I can hope
I think it's kind of for me with the Centenary. I will move on after this, but I'm just saying, I think it's for me with the Centenary, like, I think even if it is bad, I'm going to be like, well, it's over now. I'm going to have that sort of approach.
RTD.
I'm going to have that sort of approach. Like, yeah, it was bad, but who cares? Like, it's over. It's done. We don't have to think about it. Move on. I think that I'll just sort of, I mean, I'll probably still tweet about it, probably, but I think largely I'll just let the people who did like the ending enjoy it, and I'll just be like, you know what? Who cares? It's done. Shout out to Debs Iona, Shane Smith, Ree Keffin, Seb Lowndes, Jay Monroe, Hash Shandycoot, Patrick Mewson, Simon Ashley, Steve Safaro, Andrew Townsend, Alex Robbins, Michael Dykes, Paul Bryden, Sam Yates, Michael Rhodes, Jerry the Meerkat, Heretic, Bibliotecaria Nerd, Cameron Jefferson, John M, Metahuvian, Ben Freeman. If you want to become a member, feel free to do so. It really helps out. You get exclusive posts, shout outs in every video, and even your own badge and custom emojis to use